Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Gregory Robb. I am the COO here at Sierra Division. We have a very special guest with us today. Thank you for joining us for another edition of our AMAs. We are joined by the senior environment artist from Naughty Dog, Mr. Peyton Varney, the man, the myth, the legend. He gave me a list of nicknames. I'm not going to go through all of them, but they were impressive. Peyton, it's great to have you, my friend. I'm joined as always by my good friend, Jacob Norris, the person who's responsible for all things beautiful here at Sierra Division. Jacob, how are you, my friend?
Pretty good. Just working on, trying to make myself more beautiful these days. So one thing at a
I'm
time,
like, you've
right?
had a
As
glow
artists,
up.
we always want to improve.
So my daughter said the other day that I overheard her with her friend. She's like, "This is going to be my year. This is my glow up." I'm like, "That's beautiful." Jacob's taking the same approach. I love it. We are very excited to be introducing Peyton to you all today. Peyton, if you wouldn't mind, would you go ahead and introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your credentials and some fun projects you've worked on?
Of course. Yeah. First off, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be joining Sierra Division and just overall starting with the mentorships and everything and working with you guys and just continuing on with, sharing and helping others just learn this craft and this really exciting sort of career that we have. But yeah, my name is Peyton Varney, as they already said. I'm a senior environment artist at Naughty Dog. I've been there for over 8 years now. Worked on The Last of Us Part 2 and The Last of Us Part 1. And then, of course, now working on Intergalactic, The Heretic Prophet. And yeah, just in general, environment artist there. Before Naughty Dog, I worked short term as a environment artist intern at Insomniac, working on Spider-Man PS4. And kind of backtracking, I guess. But before that, of course, went to college down in Florida, and I'm originally from South Alabama. So I've kind of like moved around the southern part of the US and then sort of like came out here. I am traditional artist at heart, so a lot of the things that I sort of share and stuff kind of comes back to that. I don't try to like overcomplicate things. I just like to be hands-on with like a pen or so with it. So that's a lot of fun. But yeah, I think that's the majority of stuff. Like in general, I would say I definitely like lean towards organic. I love making vegetation, plants. I have a ton of plants in my home. And yeah, it's just like I'm very passionate about the overall like process of building those and bringing like those real world experience to life. And I guess last thing is, yeah, I've been teaching for I guess 7 years now or so across different platforms. And it's just really been cool to be able to like help others also follow in this path and have these opportunities that are a little bit more affordable compared to like a 4-year college and that like I went to. So yeah.
Yeah. Now we've had those discussions quite a bit as far as the expenses involved with education and things like that. It seems to be a commitment that you got to make if you want to get through the door for a lot of places. Although we have some fun conversations with people that are completely self-taught, and those
Yeah.
are always interesting just to kind of see how they kind of made their journey through and what those bobs and weaves were all about and what they had to go through. How much? So I live in the Midwest here in the United States, but not that far. I'm kind of like in a state where it's kind of considered a border. How
Mhm.
much do you think you said obviously you love organic environments, love plants. How much do you think of that was growing up in Southern Alabama / in the South? Because I know very green, you're going to have a lot of vegetation.
Yeah, we definitely did a lot of like family trips to Tennessee and stuff. I love the Smoky Mountains. One of my first environments actually that I did was a Smoky Mountain environment. So that was really fun to just sort of like bring something that
Yeah.
I sort of like did or like experience in my life and carried it over to 3D. And I a lot of times sort of try to replicate that. That's why I think it's important to get out and like also just take reference images and actually experience like nature itself. Because I think it's like, yeah, just super useful to like get the reference in the real world instead of just Google as well. So I
Well,
definitely think,
you're
yeah,
in
Yeah.
Lo-
Yeah.
go ahead.
Los Angeles now, though, right?
I am, but I
I was
travel a
just, yeah,
lot.
just because the organic aspect, like, yeah, if that's something you grew up with, how do you still access nature with so much concrete around?
It's a lot of like just road trips. Whenever I can, I would say a couple times a year, try to go to like Yosemite or like Joshua Tree. And, we have, surprisingly, even though it's like a concrete jungle here, Los Angeles is very close to a ton of biomes. And it's really cool because, like, even a couple weeks ago, I was driving out in the desert and just wanted to like grab some reference of like vegetation and stuff in the desert. So it's like that opportunity, and then you can go and find coastal sort of environments, and there's a lot of different biomes basically.
Yeah. Just right there at your fingertips, an artist's dream. It's just
Hmm.
instantaneous
Yeah.
references wherever you go.
And you
Maybe
kind of
the small grass and shrubs that pop up between each of the concrete slabs also. Honestly, that's a part sometimes of like even the propping out of environments, just getting those little details in there.
yeah, I love that meme talking about house plants always struggling, and then you just have that one concrete like plant in the middle of like a
Yeah.
highway, and it's thriving.
Yeah,
So
that's too true.
It's real. I'm looking out at my driveway right now, and there's like a
yeah,
one little, just random. Meanwhile, I've got the little yellow spots everywhere from like people walking their dogs and stuff that I constantly have to fight against. And
yeah.
so
If
it's
you
like
had
this
it,
one. It's like I refuse. I will survive.
if it was in a nice pot in your house, it would probably not do as well for some reason.
Yeah. You just got to put concrete on top of that.
Yeah.
You're good.
It's the best
Something
way
about
to
the
grow
nutrients
plants,
in it,
apparently.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was your journey into art, Peyton? Where you said
Um,
you started out with traditional art, right? Or
yeah, I
what
think
is what
like
was your journey?
honestly, like I had a lot of like I mean, it is a little bit more difficult in the South because like there's certain cities and stuff like New Orleans, and like you of course have like Savannah a little bit further away, but like in that area, there's not a ton of art. It's a little bit harder to find those opportunities, but I would say definitely like grandparents, like kind of both sides of my family. I had people that were sort of like artists, and my family was always sort of supportive, but I just ever since I can remember I was drawing. I loved drawing, and just like that's how I would spend most of my time, my free time, like just drawing on a piece of paper, all through grade school, high school. And yeah, it was a lot of fun in that sense. And I knew that I wanted to go into art, but I didn't really know how, that I wanted to do it. So I basically started looking at like different opportunities, and I actually originally was going to go into animation. So I went to an animation school, Ringling, in Sarasota, Florida, but I was focusing in on computer animation because I was like, I love like your Disney, Pixar films, DreamWorks, and all, and like how they kind of tell stories. And I think the storytelling aspect was really appealing to me. But what I found that I struggle with it is that I would make really detailed environments and focus less on the actual animation and character, with it. And
Okay.
so after my freshman year, I kind of switched majors, and went into like games. Family was still supportive and everything like that, which was super nice. And the switch to games was solely because I saw people just making these environments, and just like being able to still tell the stories just without a character. And I think that's like one of the coolest parts of environment art
Yeah.
is you are still a storyteller, and you're having to basically tell the story of who lives here or what creature or whatever kind of resides in this place, because almost every environment, no matter what planet or whatever, has something that resides in it. And I think like being able to tell that without having the actual character there is really fun as well. So I kind of like that because even when I'm building an environment, just personal work, and I don't ever plan to make a character for it, I still heavily think on like who this character is, what do they need in their environment and so forth. So,
Even when it comes to organic environments, like of course when there's more urban areas and you can have like a broken door or like blood streaked hand on the wall or something, do you feel there's still stories to tell when it comes to the organic aspects or foliage, landscape, fallen tree trunks, things like that?
I think so. It definitely is harder because we kind of associate with humans, of course, because we are, and like so those elements where we're kind of
Of course
like
we are.
familiar.
Yes.
um,
It's like a second eyelid blinks. Oh, hey.
I'm just like you guys.
Hello, fellow humans.
but yeah, I think with organic environments you kind of have to focus on a different storytelling aspect. And I think, well, it of course depends on the environment, but even those small things where like where are the deer trails throughout the vegetation, or what kind of animal might like come to this watering hole, and like has there ever been sort of like human life that's come through this space or so. Because I would say a lot of times organic environments in general will still have like some sort of, I mean, just because our we've kind of spread a lot. So I think like that organic to man-made's like very common. But in general, if we're just talking solely like organic, just nature, I think you have to rely more on the people, like the animals that live there instead, and they're your character as to like what they need. You know, if like you need bird nests or like just nesting dens for something, just trying to like think about like, because you still have a character there. It's just they require a lot less like yeah, like Amazon products and stuff like
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, yeah, like you said, you can still show like trampled grass and trails and where they're navigating to, or yeah, or even that's where you can start to incorporate the human elements on top of it, like carvings into the sides of the tree. Uh, yeah, initials with hearts and things like that in there too.
yeah. And I mean, even like even just at a basic level too, like uh erosion and sort of like the elements kind of tell their own story of like the earth or whatever planet it is like changing. And so like you can also think about it that way, is like even a river technically is like a storytelling element because of how it's carving through the space what might have been there before. And like the indication of like how the erosion and like some of that's built up as well.
That's kind of cool to think of, like the Grand Canyon is like a massive story,
Yeah.
basically. An epic story of mass
Yeah.
proportion.
I mean,
And I
when
mean,
you
it
go to
tracks too with the studio that you work at, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Just because
it's all about
so well known
storytelling.
for storytelling.
Yeah.
The environment is a story in and of itself. It's like it becomes another character. I
Yeah.
feel, but I hear what you're saying. It's like a game like Last of Us, but
Mhm.
you're talking about like an environment where everything's been destroyed, everything, and so the
Oh, yeah.
destruction and what people had to live through, you can see. Right, you
Mhm.
got the bloody handprint, like Jacob was alluding to, the deserted cars in the middle. Yeah, it's so cool to get to see that expression of it. And what's cool about your work specifically is you get to see the reclaiming of like nature over the concrete jungle, so to speak, which is like
Yeah.
a super fun experience. So with those sorts of things, are you looking at like random like weeds that happen to survive in concrete, or what is it that where do you find like most of your inspiration? Is it like movies? How do you kind of piece it all together? What's your process?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like my phone is full of actual reference. Like every time I'm out, I can walk to a restaurant or something. I probably am taking a picture of like a tree bark or an interesting like rust material or something. It's like, and I don't even know if I'm ever going to use it, but it's kind of building that backlog because I could like, if I see a certain material right now, I could probably say, oh, I have that picture from 3 years ago. I know exactly where it is. And so I think like building that
So you've got
personal
it like
like
cataloged. You know the picture that you took.
yeah, yeah,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
so yeah, and I even know
That's
like
crazy.
where it
That's
was
great.
too.
Yeah.
Like you, I know a couple materials where I'm like, oh yeah, if you went to this specific place, you look down, you'll look at a roof, and that roof has a really nice like oxidization on it. And yeah,
Jacob's like,
it's a
Yeah,
slight
no,
like
100%.
obsession. So
but what's
Yeah.
what's interesting about it though is it's like you're so inspired by it that you remember it. Like
Mhm.
it's an inspiration. Like is that basically what you see? Like in the moment, you're like, oh, that'd be great for this, and then that's why you take it, or is it like you're looking for something specific? Is it just
Definitely, I would.
as it appears, and that's when you feel the
No,
inspiration to
it's
keep
definitely
sort of thing, or is
inspiration
it
where
more like you're looking for it?
I see something and I'm like, "Oh, this is really cool. I like how it's happening," you know? And I wanna capture that because I feel like it's like a yeah, great kind of like inspiration for something that could happen, in the future. So, don't know if I could, but it doesn't hurt to take 5 images of it and keep it in the brain. So,
There's
um,
even one time I was giving feedback to somebody, about, like, tiled rooftops or something and how they react when they're by the ocean, and I just happened to be doing it on my phone because, like, I'm always working, and then, uh, uh, then I was like, "Oh, actually, there's some right next to me," because I was then, like, working while I was traveling.
yeah.
I just took a picture because I was by the ocean, tiled rooftops. Make it more like this, basically. Yeah, you get to exactly see what you're talking about, and then similar to what you said, just knowing where you were, what you took a picture of in those places because you kinda, get inspired while you're traveling or while you're out and about, and then that just kinda creates, like, a timeline almost in your head, and you just think, "Oh, September of 2023, that's right. I was over in this place.
Mhm.
That's where I got this reference from," and you just go back and
Oh,
especially with Google Photos or something, you just scroll through the timeline, it makes it easy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think,
But
also, like go ahead.
oh yeah, so someone actually asked a question related to keeping track of references. Do you have a good system for that? Well, I guess you know mine now, so it's just Google Photos timeline, but what about you, Peyton?
Yeah, I would say, like, I could definitely be better about actually cataloging it. A lot of it's just I know where it sort of is in my phone. I might have like an album or so. Sometimes I upload to like Google Drive or like just my computer and actually have folders. But sometimes I feel like when I do that, I might lose like or forget about it. So I think I would say probably locally on my computer and on my phone, like albums is probably how I use it the most. That way I don't forget.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cause
And
it,
then,
yeah.
kind of as like a follow-up to that, I guess, do you prefer to look at the reference or if you're able to go back to the place, look at it again in real life to understand it better?
Oh, that's a good one. If it's, yeah, there's definitely been images where I've taken a photo or whatever, but I didn't know what exactly that was going to be used for. And then at one point, I'm like, oh, okay, I know what it's going to be used for now. So I have that reference of where it's at, but maybe I feel like I probably could benefit from some more images. That's definitely an opportunity to where I could go get more. I think it definitely depends on like where the reference was taken, because I'm not necessarily going to be able to like fly somewhere if it was far away or so. But there's like if it's something local, I took this tree bark texture and it was somewhere in like Santa Monica, then yeah, I might like be like, oh, let me go drive and find that tree. So,
Yeah, and then you can see it in more like not lighting scenarios or maybe from a different angle that you weren't able to capture last time. I guess
exactly.
that's the question too. Do you ever take videos or is it just picture references?
Um, I like videos because some of I remember there was an instance where, because talking about that storytelling, there's things that you don't always see in an image, and taking a video is super nice. Where I have a couple of videos of like some really thin trees where they were getting like really heavy wind. And of course, they were actually rubbing together. And so you're getting this like really beautiful sound of like two trees kind of rubbing together and making this like squeaking sort of sound, and then the wind going through the rustling of the leaves as well. So I think like videos is really awesome for stuff like that, as well of like effects or anything else that you're maybe adding to your environment. But just yeah, I do like videos a lot because you can also pause them. Sometimes if I actually run out of like, if I do need to use Google and I'm running out of like things or like sort of reference that I can find on Google, I'll actually go to YouTube and watch walkthroughs of an area. Because like you can watch a walkthrough of an environment and there's a ton of stuff that you might not see on Google Images.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
You actually technically just
That's
answered
vision.
one of the questions that was next up, and they were curious because they live in the Philippines. This was a Big Mac Truck, first time visiting with us. Thank you, Big Mac Truck, by the way. He did just ask like if he lives someplace that's more tropical, but he happens to really love like the Pacific Northwest. How could he do that? I love that. Or even just like drives too. I've actually watched those a couple times, like people going up and down the coast on motorcycles, and those were cool. Those are really really cool because you get to kind of experience, get to see what that's like. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I just imagine
experience
too,
living in the time that we
like
do.
you said that the trees made this unique sound when they're wrestling together, that you just have that like video playing on loop as inspiration while you're modeling leaves and making trees. And, like, you're in nature while you're working on
yeah, it's
nature.
pretty calming. Yeah, I've definitely even like specifically kind of the question, the Pacific Northwest, there actually are a lot of like YouTube videos going through a lot of the Washington like state or national parks and preserves, and doing walkthroughs both in like rain where you get that really cool moody effect in the fog and all, but then there's also daytime, so you can even like find different videos for the mood that you're wanting to go for with the environment. um,
Yeah, and the video aspect really helps with that too, just because then like not only do you get the sounds and the motion and all that aspect that comes along with it, but even when I'm sharing references sometimes with an artist and asking them to make the surface like a little glossier or a little more rough, uh, two people can look at the exact same image and interpret how that surface is reacting completely different.
yeah.
Kind of like, you know, that blue and yellow dress reference that came up however many years ago from ILM. Uh, the same thing can be said if the environment's raining and then you just take a picture of the side of the tree. It might just look like the bark is like slightly darker, but then as soon as you move the camera around, you see it's actually wet and there's like gloss and reflection to it. And
Mhm.
so um, it's not something I think of doing often enough when it comes to gathering videos alongside my images. But yeah, that's a great point. So I'm just kind of reiterating. I like that idea, and I think I should do that more often as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I also don't do it enough. I think when the audio or the mood or in the like effects stands out, that's when I'll do it more often. But I probably should record more because I do like to look at YouTube for video reference of an environment. So
You'll have to start your own YouTube channel after
How much do you think your animation
grab
experience?
more.
Just I know it was earlier.
go ahead.
Oh yes. How much do you feel like the animation experience that you have plays a role? Because it almost sounds like that recording would be like a habit from animation, or was it not from that at all?
I think, well, animation, I mean, because it was pretty early on, but
Yeah.
overall, like what you learn is like the fundamentals of animation and stuff. So like it can help potentially with like movement and like timing and all. And then I guess like there's sometimes, especially with like framing for an animation, you're trying to just make sure you're getting a really nice composition. So it can help compositionally as well. But I would say like I didn't necessarily go down the path enough to really benefit. But I was surrounded just because I was like sort of there with so many like also animators. And so I'm more familiar with like the animation process because of like sort of that. So I guess there is definitely like stuff that I was able to learn just by sitting next to animators, like in school or so. But yeah, I didn't go like too deep into the animation before switching. I
Okay,
mainly learned
that's fair.
traditional
I was just curious
animation,
how much that may
surprisingly.
have played into it because it sounds like it would.
Yeah, it was fun,
Uh,
but like I said, I
You still
love the
do it in your
environment.
free time?
Not really. The crazy thing is like when I say like it's hard to explain, but with environment art, like I think the my obsession with it just really stems from like a just a deep rooted like love for building worlds And so even when I was little, and I still kind of do it now, I build miniatures. I loved like model trains growing up and just all of that. And then even when I'm playing like video games, most of my video games are like management simulations, like slash like, yeah, you're basically building worlds again. So a lot of my friends, I'll show them what I'm playing, and they're like, "You're just doing what you do at work," and it's like, yeah, like, but you have to worry about the money and everything else. Like people don't, but yeah, hobby wise, a lot of my hobbies are focused around environments like modeling miniatures and all of that. And then, yeah, my games are also focused around environments. And then I love like some of my favorite movies are focused around environments. Like it's just, yeah, kind of endless environments.
Have you ever created
Traveling to like abandoned sites
an
and ghost cities to
environment?
make like
Oh, there might be some lag between Greg and us, perhaps, if some of the
little
delay
bit.
sometimes. But yeah, I was just gonna say, have you ever created like one of the environments that you're going to make in 3D and then use it as reference to to then understand how to make it in 3D better?
I have thought about actually like making an environment miniature wise and then trying to like photo scan it and see how that would look. But I haven't directly made something. I've actually done it the other way where I've 3D like an environment out, then tried to build it like miniature wise. I think reason why is because 3D's like material cost is way cheaper than like a miniature or something. So if I don't like the layout and all, I can easily adjust it in 3D without like losing supplies. So
Yeah, you
more
can
more of
control
the
Z
time,
it also.
yeah. Most of the time it goes the other way where I'm actually going 3D to miniature. So yeah,
That makes sense.
but it's
That's
it's
pretty cool
definitely
though.
great.
I don't know as many people who actually do the like proper dioramas and miniatures and things like that. So, I mean, there's so much from that, I'd imagine, that helps you to understand also like the texturing process, because then when you're painting, you're probably having to actually combine colors. And so, if you want to make, this color warmer, you have to add more of that color, and
Mhm.
the blending between them and stuff. So, there's probably a lot you can learn and gain from doing something like that that you wouldn't necessarily think of immediately off the top of your head.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of like even miniature painting and stuff uses a lot of similarities with how you might do something in Substance Painter. It's the same sort of layering process and all, just with a more physical element.
Do you
And
actually have a bunch of different types of brushes that you use too?
yeah, I do really small stuff, so it's like very tiny brushes. But yeah, there's different brushes, different paints. Like
Do you have like the monocle or like one of those zoom in kind of eyes to really see
the
like
monocle.
what you're painting?
uh, I do not, but I've pretty good eyesight, thankfully, so I can look at tiny things.
I've always seen that like with the people that do paint the miniatures, they'll have like those multifocal lenses that they can like throw down multiple stuff and like zoom in really far.
It's like Al from
I
Toy
mean,
Story.
I say I always see that people
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that,
I
but
was just
maybe
thinking the
I'm
same
literally
thing.
just thinking about that.
I love how our brains all went the same place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean it was
exactly.
just so iconic. So
Yeah,
that
yeah. You can't
montage.
forget it.
Yeah, maybe since I know we started a bit late today, do we want to jump into the demo that you're going to show, and then come back to some of the questions after that?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can.
Um,
Quick rapid fire question. What's your favorite plant?
my favorite plant.
It's just a one-off while you're pulling stuff up.
I
What's your
mean,
favorite
I'm
plant?
definitely, of course, it's pretty basic, but I do love monsteras. I have like Albo monsteras, so the ones with actual variegation and stuff. But those are really fun just because you're able to like, they're generally easy to care. I definitely recommend it for like a beginner plant. You'll find it everywhere. But the actual like it, if they go advanced, like, and they get really large and stuff, it gets like a lot more complicated with having to actually care for it when it's much larger. But yeah, it's like it's a really cool plant. Definitely lean towards tropical plants for sure. And just the more green stuff. I do like succulents as well, but I think since I grew up in a very green biome, then I just like lean towards green. Like I love grass. Like it's
Yeah.
just yeah. So I'm not as big on the dry aspect of vegetation.
I didn't realize how large the leaves from the
Yeah.
monstera plants could get. As soon as you said it, I had to start Googling it, and I'm already just checking it out right now.
Oh yeah.
Someone's like holding one up to their head, and it's like, twice the size of their head almost.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. And I
It's
mean,
impressive.
it's a vine plant too, so technically it attaches to trees and grows up trees and stuff in the wild. So yeah,
Damn.
they're pretty beautiful.
I think I got a new plant I'll need to look into more now.
Cool. Do you want me to
One more
share?
plant. One more plant for your cats to attack. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Cool.
Oh, don't
And yeah,
mention it.
also feel free at any point to either stop me or so. I'm just going to kind of like go through a couple of my processes, and I actually wanted to show just like how easy or like quick you can sort of set up some like basic kind of layout or block out vegetation, and you don't need to necessarily like overcomplicate things as well. So let me go over here and let's see. So you should be able to see Unreal Engine, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Looks beautiful.
Cool. So these are just a couple of trees that I built a couple of days ago, and it's pretty much Douglas fir. So like this is what I would consider like an alpha stage of the tree itself. And with a tree like this is something that you could potentially set up to an alpha level at probably like just a couple of hours, depending on how you're kind of working smart with it. So what I wanted to do is sort of like walk through my process of setting one of these up at least, and just showing like how you can get to that without needing to overcomplicate it and also make like mistakes or rework on your part. So one thing that I do not have it open. So forgot to restart my computer real quick, but I was gonna just open up my actual ref board for this. So yeah, as I think the comment earlier too, Douglas firs are common in Washington. I'm kind of looking at this Pacific Northwest environment, building out a couple of these, and this will probably be something primarily for like showing off in Sierra Division and like building this up throughout the class or the mentorships as well. So we'll definitely be showing this in that mentorship and like kind of building it alongside everyone, which will be cool. So but as I said, this is sort of my reference. This is pure ref. Pure ref's great for like personal use if you're just having
At the moment, you're only just sharing Unreal, by the way.
You're still sharing Unreal.
Yep. I think that's because I didn't do window. Rookie mistake. There we go.
There you go.
Cool. So yeah, this is pure ref. I'm sure you might have used it. If not, it's a great like reference board option for local use. Of course, like you probably heard of Miro as well. Sierra Division uses Miro, which is super great for actual like team collaboration because you can have multiple people on the board at the same time. You can't do that with pure ref, and it's just something that's a little bit more of a local app. But since I'm not necessarily working on this environment with anyone else, that's why I'm using this basically. So, but what I wanted to show with this is sort of my actual collection of some of the reference that I gather. This is mostly actually just using Google because I haven't had the time to actually go and find like a Douglas fir in nature. And then if we're talking about actually like the environment that I'm kind of going for with the Pacific Northwest look to it, what I generally start off with is you can find one of the like preservation sites or like local kind of national park sites or so, and they'll generally have a list of the most common vegetation in that area. And so what I'll do is I'll go and find what is the most popular tree, what's the second most, and then what is like the most popular bush or vegetation, like ground wise, and kind of work from there. So, what I landed on right now is three different tree types that have a good amount of variation to them. So, you have the Douglas fir, Western hemlock, and then the red alder. And then I have a couple of variations of vegetation for ground. So, what we can see here is we have this like salal, which is more of a bushy round shape, which is nice because it gives us some soft leaves. And then the ferns, I have a variety of ferns, sword ferns, the more common one that you'll find. You can see here, then the lady fern, and then the steppe moss, which is just a little bit lower. So also hierarchically, we have macro to micro with our shapes. So trying to start simple, have 2 to 3 trees, and then a couple of ground vegetation types. And then if I need more, or if I find myself needing less, I can remove as I go along. And I'll just start with the macro, so like your largest trees, and work down from there, basically, with my environments. And yeah, like I said, this is a variety. My actual grabbing of reference is a mixture of actual like tree silhouettes that I have. Sometimes it might be like drawings from a book. And then I also have like some other kind of just like individual branch pieces, so you can kind of see what they might look like, even if it's low res. Something like this kind of be helpful for the shapes. Then of course my bark reference, some sapling reference, some juvenile reference there. So yeah, it's kind of a culmination of all of it. I also have a book that I don't have with me right now, but I actually have a physical book that is a lot of like the trees, and it's a really cool book. I'll send it to you guys. Forgot the name of it right now, but definitely recommend checking it out as well. It's pretty cool, but it basically just has like silhouettes as well, and then actually like the almost like a laid out atlas of that also. So but yeah, this is at least the reference gathering phase. Once I've found stuff and I feel confident with where I'm at, I'll then jump into generally making an atlas first, and then going into SpeedTree for that. So and as I
Just
go
for
along,
people
go
that
ahead.
aren't necessarily familiar with atlases,
Mhm.
maybe just a brief overview of that.
Yes. So, perfect segue into this actually. So, what I'll do is for an atlas, it's basically as you see in here. Let me go back here. It's kind of your branch laid out flat like this. And what you do with it is you map your UVs to that. And then that's how you're placing your cards out on your actual branches. So, you'll just make the card match this, and then place it with the actual pivot point down bottom. And then it's just a really nice way to get that repetitive branch to be placed on the tree. Also, this is saving a lot on optimization, because if we were to model all of this out, especially all those tiny needles, that would be way too expensive. And so, like, being able to just kind of have it as a card and still get that same look, I think is super nice. And I'll can even show real quick inside of Unreal. But yeah, so these are basically just like a flat card, but with how they're being placed out and everything in the curve, you're getting that same sort of like fullness and all, with the trees themselves.
Are
So
you hand placing a lot of those yourself? The
um,
alphas on top of the branches, or
I'm actually doing speed tree for a lot of it nowadays, just because of how large trees are and all. And so I've done them like more traditionally, where you're like hand placing them and stuff. But speed tree is super nice because you can get that sort of iteration really quickly. Where if I bring it into Unreal Engine, and then I really don't like, let's say, this big clump part, I can go into SpeedTree and move that entire branch, and adjust like the size of the atlases and everything else. So the reason why I've like heavily started to like use speed tree and kind of lean with that is just because of like it's a lot less destructive. And with like how time consuming trees can be in vegetation, I find like the destructive part of it is like the best way to kind of work smart with that as well. But you're still able to get a good amount of like hands on with it. So going over here with my atlases, what I'll generally start off with is I'll do a simple sketch. So I'll show you the final look to it. So it'll be something, let's see, there we go. So this might be my actual initial atlas. And like I said, this is just a block out because eventually I will actually sculpt this in ZBrush and use it with like nice detail and everything, where it has the branches modeled out, and then I just bake it down to a flat plane so it looks like an actual like branch sort of baked down to it, and yeah, looks much better. But for my block out phase, I just draw it inside of Photoshop because it's doing the same thing. All you really need for block out with a atlas is an opacity. You know, you just need that white and black mask to where you can actually like frame your cards and all, and be able to just lay out that form basically. So we can see here what I generally start with is a simple drawing. So I'll do something like this and I'll like sketch out the size. The reason why I don't immediately go into actually like, I'll draw real quick. The reason why I don't immediately go into like building out the branch and actually like modeling it is because I don't know spacing, how it's going to fit on the atlas. So what I like to do is just like really quickly sort of like scribble out where the branches are, because that way I can know like this is an area, this is an area, here is an area, and here is an area. And then I'll generally just place that layer on like a lower opacity so it's underneath. And then I'll come on after that and basically actually start to do a very quick drawing of the branches. So I don't spend a lot of time because this is an atlas and we're going to see it not, super close up generally. So I'll just like really quickly, draw out. And like I said, sorry, when I'm doing this, it's literally like, you throw out a branch right here, and then you can do another branch here, and then that will work as a branch for now in my actual like tree. And then what I'll do after that is I will keep my actual leaves, or whether it's your leaves or it's your needles, same sort of thing. I keep them on a separate layer. The reason why, because it's just easier to make actually have like a temp color, and so you can actually like color them separately pretty easily, because otherwise if you draw it all on the same one, it's kind of hard to separate them out, and then the whole branch is going to have to be one color. So even though it's block out, I do like to have like both options of being able to basically do this. Let's see, there we go. And all this was hue adjustments inside of Photoshop. So then you're just able to get your color from the white and black. And this is a really easy, like just block out atlas that I can now actually export out. And I have I'll do generally that for padding reasons. But I have an actual color that I can use. And then I also have that black and white that we already saw here for my opacity. And when it comes to, go ahead.
Did you actually hand draw all the needles in this case for the blackout too, or?
Yeah. So I just went in here and basically like did this. And
oh wow.
Yeah, like I said, you don't want to take too much time with it. You'll see that like, because I am going to replace it, so it's still trying to like manage my time to where I'm not wasting it too much. But this is super helpful because you can see the mistakes before having to get into ZBrush and sculpt out or do anything else. So I think it saves me a lot of time because of that, like uh, sort of like problem solving early on. And one thing that I think is a common mistake with atlases when people are building them is they'll make them super full. And what can be problematic with that, like you might think that this is too much of space here. If you have a really full atlas, like if I doubled up and actually went as thick as what you see in the reference, then generally what that will cause is the cards to feel very card like cardy, because they don't have enough negative space in between. And so if you are struggling with your trees to actually have uh, like a card look like feel more just full and kind of like openness, is generally that negative space that you need to open up. So even with it, like if these were leaves and we were placing out leaves here, you don't want to like clump them up too much, because this is just going to turn into like one form basically. So you do want to spread it out a little bit more. And what's nice about, of course, the block out is that I can actually just come in here and erase, if I feel like something's a little bit too dense.
That's that's amazing because like I've totally suffered from doing exactly that, where I'll look at reference and make my pine needles exactly as dense as they are in the reference, and I'm like, why does this feel just like a branch coming off of the tree?
Yeah.
Whereas I just didn't have enough negative space.
Um, yeah, and like I said, the being able to draw it out is like a super nice way to avoid that, because you're able to sort of uh, fix your mistakes much quicker, because I might have taken 15 minutes to draw out all these needles or something, if that. And like you could just come in and like erase all of this right here and then just, replace them out. So you're saving a lot more time compared to like, yeah, when I get to the ZBrush phase of things, like you're probably going to have to like either like duplicate these in a certain way, or actually like manually place them, and that can definitely be more time consuming, but it has a really nice look to it. So that's why I like doing the ZBrush atlases. But I want to make sure that I've figured out majority of the mistakes before I actually get to that phase with it. But yeah, now that we have this, what will happen is, of course, I'll come over here and I'll just start with like a new tree as well. Let me open up. But you can see that I can use the same atlas for all these trees. I have them saved as different files just because it makes it a bit easier for working and organization. But let's say that we were building an entirely like new tree, like from scratch. Basically, I like to still keep it like pretty just manual with how I'm doing it. There's a lot of like sort of setup that you can do to avoid that. But if we were to just make a really quick trunk, you can bring it in here. I'll scale it up. Might shrink down the thickness and all. And yeah, I'm not going to go through every single thing that I'm doing here just because it can be a little bit time sensitive. And it's similar to like Substance Designer, where once you figure out the math problems and the nodes and stuff that you need, you're kind of jumping around back and forth and just tweaking things until you get it right. But let's go and place a couple branches. And like I said, this is generally where like I actually place my branches in a form where it's like individual branches like this, and then sort of like use that node. There are other branch nodes that can speed up the process, but I find that sometimes like it just takes more time to actually iterate on those than it would to just start from scratch with this node. Another thing is I don't generally use any of the templates either, because I find that the templates are also hard to understand where like things are and why things are happening, as opposed to something where I'm starting from scratch here. I know exactly what's sort of happening with this, and because I've probably done it myself. So I'm just going to simplify some of these, and then going to go to skin, shrink down the thickness. And then similar to like trees, if I was looking at my reference, trees grow upwards near the top, the new growth, but then as they're growing, these bottom ones generally either become perpendicular or actually point down. So starting angle down here, I can actually adjust the kind of the resolution of like where they are doing their starting angle. So I can basically like kind of make it to where those bottom ones are more like facing more downwards, and then we're getting that slope where we're getting that transition as well. Probably will bump this up a bit more, and then let's say that we actually move these up a bit, and then let's just add one more branch. These are going to go here. But what I really wanted to show real quickly is the actual like atlas building and how easy it is to get one in here. So what you'll want to do is under materials, I'll just add a new material, and then we'll call this my branch, and just hit OK. It's got the material now set up. I'll need to go find my opacity, so I can go and get that opacity that we made. You can see that it shows up here, which is super nice. And then we have our color. So if we also want our color, I can also bring that in. Sometimes starting off, especially if the tree is just going to be white, I might just start off with the white version of this as well. Makes things a little bit easier. But what you'll want to do now is we have our branches over here. I can adjust these really quickly. They're going to be slightly off. And then I'm going to add one more branch. But what this branch is actually going to be is where our fronds are, which is going to be our actual like atlases. So as you can see here, I'm going to switch these branches over to just be a spine. So they don't actually exist as geometry anymore. They're just a spine. I can remove the actual like turbulence that's on them as well, but they're just going to be used almost like a joint or like a spline that you would have in like Maya. So and then I'm going to add a frond to this. So we'll have a frond. And so now you can see it's really weird at the moment. This frond is just this like flat card. And that's because we don't actually have this branch set up yet with geometry. So you can either go over here to meshes, or I can actually just do it right here with this. I'm going to go ahead and hit edit because there's not one yet. And it's going to pull up this cool little edit mesh feature. And what I can do here is move this item, which is actually our pivot location. So I'm going to bring this down, and because I want to use this branch here, and I'm going to bring this down, place it here, and actually rotate the angle because I want this to be the center of my card. So I can move this over, and now it's perfectly lined up. And then the points are what you see out here. So these can be like added and removed pretty easily. You can just like, erase, add. But similar to how you would traditionally build out a card, I can just add these pretty quickly just around my card itself. And might need to, there we go. Probably don't need that one. And then I'll give a couple of supporting branches probably in the middle. Let me paint out this little section here. That's just to make sure that it doesn't actually create geo there. It's basically like a mask. And then, I'm going to add a couple points down the middle. That way, if I want to like curve it or anything, we can easily do that. And then now we basically have our card. It's that easy. I can now hit this button, and it's making the card for us right here. And we can see that the pivot is in its correct location. These are high, medium, and low. So if you want to do LODs, you can actually custom build your like card LODs in here. But I'm just going to set it to all and then hit done. And then the reason why still not showing up is because we haven't applied that material. So I want to drag this over. And now we have very quickly a branch card actually on the tree. So now the next step, of course, is customizing that, making it, uh, look more legit and actually like aligning a lot closer with how we'd want those branch cards to look. So yeah, this is basically going to be that process of walking through, doing stuff like adjusting the start angle. Again, I might have it stick out more near the front part. Another thing that you'll notice is that they are pretty card like and flat at the moment. I can go up here to the frond as well. Also, I forgot two-sided on my material. Sorry, I'm slightly jumping around. So that's definitely going to help as well. Um, but yeah, now what we can do is jump over to the frond and actually go, and you'll find that there's curl and roll. This will depend on the amount of geometry that you have, but let's say that you want the branch to have that curl to it, then that can definitely help break up, those side silhouettes to where it doesn't feel as card-like. You can also have, roll if you're liking or wanting that. Here's another roll. And you'll see that all of these are pretty uniform, but there are these plus minus here. This is kind of a randomizer. So you're setting a variable of plus minus what my actual value is. So if my curl's 0.21, I can set this variance setting. And the higher I go up, it doesn't mean that they're all uniformly going that way. It's actually saying that this is the variance of 0.2 both ways, negative and positive, of the 0.21. So it's a really quick way, an easy way to start to get some variation in there as well. So yeah, and of course, this will definitely need like optimization pass as well, but you can just very quickly start to build out your branches. Let's say that I want them to curl up. I can use gravity to have sort of that bend, or if I certain trees might actually curl down. It depends on your reference, of course, but this is how I would basically start to build out my trees and kind of setting this sort of setup up. So
That's maybe the fastest I've ever seen a tree built, I'd say. Pretty impressive.
I've done it a time or two for sure. So
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, very cool.
I can imagine.
But yeah, awesome. Like if we break down one of these, just because for time's sake, but it's very simply same thing. Like I said, I still need to go back and do a variety of things with it, but it is set up same way where you just have like, and I have some other supporting branches as well, but the main branch here, that's how it looks, just has like a slight curve down. Then it slightly curves up at the top, and then adding my secondary ones that are also starting to curl up. And then finally, like this is where we have those splines basically, and then they're in control of the cards themselves. So if I were to go over to the leaf and turn it off, or even the opacity, this is basically what you have as a tree. And like I said, it's really cool too, because let's say, Jacob, you're like, oh, I really hate this tree here. Of course, I can, move it however I want. I can go here and actually change the size of it so I can make it like stick out further or so. There's also this actual so generally, yeah, if I spend more time, I might get into a phase where I'm actually doing like more of this manual placement of some of the branches and all. Of course, it creates a little bit more destructiveness to it, because then your nodes can't be touched too much, but it then offers a level of kind of freedom where I could customize it, however I want, and place them around and stuff.
I guess you could always save the tree as like a base foundation and then come back and make changes to it. So you have like iterations of that kind of base version too. So
Mhm.
then if you need to make changes to the node, you can always just bounce back to the start again.
For sure. And same with like the other stuff. So I also started to block out some very simple, like my fern and all. And same thing where in Photoshop, this one's a little bit uglier, but just drew out like a basic fern shape to it. And again, I do have that underlying, like, kind of sketch of maybe where some of them might be placed. Like, I probably want some smaller ones, some thin ones, then maybe like one or two big ones. And then, yeah, I'll export this out. And as you see here, like just simply brought one in. I didn't use any branches or anything else. And now I have like my spine and then my frond here set up the same way. And then you really quickly just have a block out fern and that I can then take over. I think they're over here. And this is just like a very simple, you know, fern. Scott should have wind on it too, um, which is also another thing with Speed Tree, which is super nice because it has the ability to like export out the wind features and all. So you're just immediately getting those dynamic wind movements and all, just straight
That's
out
great.
Speed Tree, and you can customize the density of your vegetation and everything in Speed Tree as well.
For someone like myself, I'm terrible with drawing, and you can tell me if this is a good idea or a bad idea and why. But I was pretty excited that I came up with the idea to use SpeedTree to actually create my atlases like this. So even for the pine needles, I basically just generate like a trunk, branches coming off of it, and then branches for the needles. And so I was
Mhm.
basically like generating all those atlases just inside of there, and I was like, "Hey, I don't have to draw."
Yeah. No, that's a good idea as well. I know a lot of people that will do that, especially with like leaves, because you could just like model a really simple leaf and bring it in as like a mesh, and then basically build out your atlas inside of SpeedTree as well, and then bake it and all. So yeah, no, SpeedTree is one of those things where there's a variety of ways that everyone can do it. Similar to designer, like you generally don't meet someone that has the same workflow of designer. I feel like there's like standard
Yeah.
practices, but I feel like everyone's got their own way because it is sort of like a math problem that has an open-ended way of getting to your end result. And that's the same with, I feel like with Speed Tree, since it is sort of node based, it's like you can build it a variety of different ways as long as you're getting to the same result. And the only thing that you really want to worry about is making sure that you have the option to like be a little bit less destructive with it, so you can have that control. But as long as it's like built in a way where you can easily iterate on, there's not really like a very specific route that you have to go down.
Yeah, there might be a couple good questions that are relating to what you're showing off as well. Like, someone's asking if, while creating your atlases, if you're thinking of texel density at all. Like, do you already have the texture size in mind and how many leaves you'll fit on there to make sure it's matching like the scale of your tree?
Hmm. Yeah, so with atlases, it's I feel like it's slightly more an eyeball look to it or effect. So of course, like with your bark and everything, it can be much easier. But with these, for sure, I try to think about, because at one point, like if we're making a super massive tree, then you need to think about the how big the branch might need to be in this. That way you can get the proper look and not be too expensive, because I think a lot of the textile density kind of correlates over to how many branches you're placing and actually the optimization of it. Because we could just go down to this being really big. Like, let me add so I guess when I'm building the atlas, I don't necessarily think about the textile density as strictly, but I do have to understand optimization wise what that's going to mean because of how I might scale it inside of SpeedTree. So, I'm going to try to get a good resolution out of my atlas. But yeah, if we weren't worrying about optimization, you could come in here and like have a leaf that you like basically sculpt, have it look beautiful, and then you could go and place that a million times on your tree, and that's great. Or let's say we have a super giant tree and we're trying to be super optimized. You could have like a branch that's just like the branches of all branches, where it's like got everything, and then it goes down to like smaller layers, and then the leaves are like super small, um, basically like to that scale. And so it does kind of correlate over to, I guess, optimization. But when I'm building something like the one we see here, it's similar to, I guess, how we might do like the tiling of bricks or something inside of Designer, where you're wanting enough information to where we have like a decent resolution, but also like we don't want like 4 bricks on this entire sheet, right? But we also don't want 100 bricks. So you're trying to find that happy medium. And so with this, you kind of want to think about like that third stage of branch when you're looking at your reference or so. And I would say generally with these, you can kind of see you have the main trunk, you have a secondary one, you might have a third one, and then that third stage is where, or the a second one, and then you might have that final stage, which is where like the actual like atlas would be. So that's what I'm sort of building out. But um yeah, I guess moral of the story for the question is that I'm not like super strict with the building of like for texel density purposes, because I know that I'll sort of like adjust it inside of SpeedTree to look adequate to the scale of the character.
Okay. Yeah, that I think that definitely answers the question. Yeah, and then from Jules, kind of relating to the creation of your atlases, what are your thoughts on using Substance Designer for atlases instead of sculpting it in ZBrush? Mainly because they're not as familiar with ZBrush, and so for them, like designers, a bit easier, less destructive, but it doesn't seem to be as common online from what they found. Is the output going to be the same? Like, can they get the similar result on Designer versus ZBrush?
I think so. I think it might just come down to a lot more like manual aspect inside of Designer as well, because I think like you can of course procedurally place out your leaves and stuff if you want. I guess it depends on how you're building your branch and stuff. But one thing that you might struggle with is like the individual leaves, if you want uniqueness to them and they're like curving or curling, if how they're being placed isn't necessarily like how you want it, unless you're like manually placing every single leaf inside of Designer and actually like having it to where you can adjust them. I could see it being a little bit more restricting on that side of things. But I would say that's probably the most common reason. I guess there's also like height maps sometimes can just feel better from a sculpted model. You just get more depth out of it, and you can get a lot of depth out of Designer for sure. But like a sculpted ZBrush model generally can give you like a good amount of height information. Um, and what I'll generally do is my sculpts do go through either Painter or Designer, and that's where I get the extra materials or your extra material maps. So I only do height map inside of ZBrush, and then I'll actually do the rest of it inside of Designer or Painter. But the yeah, if we're talking about like, I guess, restrictions wise with Designer, I think the manual aspect of it is the only major drawback that I would say.
Yeah, because I guess a lot of times also people tend to be excited that they can have so many variations in Substance Designer of material types, or if they're creating branches and they can just swap a few nodes or move a few values and it creates a whole new version of it. But I also find that sometimes the amount of nodes that it takes to get to that point,
Hmm.
and the amount of time that you've taken to get to that point, to then create 5 variations for one atlas that you use on everything, and that's all the variation you really need,
Yeah,
then it can be faster to just do it in ZBrush, and you literally just move some of those things around with deformers, soft mover, or basically creating your own variations. And then you tend not to need those 100 versions of different branches, because like nobody's actually putting that in the game. You still want to save on your VRAM and the amount of textures that you have in there. And so there's definitely that back and forth argument of, okay, I can make a bunch of variations, but how many do you actually use, and is that time relevant or not?
exactly.
But yeah, and it's kind of related to the question, because then maybe they're not as skilled with ZBrush, but there's that upfront cost of learning ZBrush, and
Mhm.
then there can be time savings from using it. While at the same time, there's the same argument for certain materials in Substance Designer, where there is time savings to do it in Substance versus ZBrush. And so it's kind of, we had someone on recently whose answer for everything was it depends, and it's so true, because it depends what you're making, which one
It's
is
true. Yeah.
most useful after.
Um, yeah, because I'll even like with the atlases, let's say that I'm happy with like the actual layout of wrong program. I'm happy with like the layout of this one, and I want to keep overall to the same look. What I'll generally do is just actually take this really quickly in Maya, just because I'm proficient in Maya, and I'll actually just box model with like a cylinder or so the branches really quick, and I'll make sure that I'll have the branch at least laid out the exact same. And then if I were to, let's say, sculpt a really small needle or something, I could also just technically with this one potentially just place it in Maya as well. So it doesn't always have to be, because I think the sculpting in ZBrush definitely benefits something more like a larger leaf, like that monstera we were talking about earlier, or like an oak or something that has a decent leaf and also like a very gnarly sort of bark that might be on the branch itself. But if you do have something very like simple and like a little bit more simplified like this, of course, there are still a lot of like complexities to it if we were looking up close at something like this. However, like you could just also potentially do it in like Maya or Blender, if you do have a preferred program as well.
Yeah, it really comes down to the artist and kind of what they work faster in also. Because then if you are quicker with drawing, that makes sense why you're going through and just quickly blocking things out with your drawings. For someone like myself, I'm just doing it quickly in SpeedTree and grabbing like alphas from my atlases that way. So
Yeah,
yeah, it really does depend on the person too.
for sure.
Oh, do you want to ask one, Greg?
Yeah. Just because we happen to be on the topic of software, and there was a specific question, just generally about environment artists from Shady. Shady, how are you, my friend? What software proficiency are required for environment artists, and what do you usually use, or the industry standards? What are they? Because I feel that environment artists have to know how to use many different softwares.
Yeah. I would say proficiency wise, like, yeah, software is something that is more important. I think though that once you find a couple of them that do a lot of the things that you like, like of course you can always in your free time add more to your sort of like arsenal of different programs. But I think some like mistakes that I notice with like newer artists is they'll try to learn all 20 programs instead of getting really good at like two or three. And so I would say like try to focus in on like really getting just a couple that you're very good at, and then you can kind of add on after that. So when we're talking about something like environment, it might be, let's say, modeling, texturing makes up a lot of our environments. And so modeling wise, Autodesk Maya or Blender. One of those two is pretty good for modeling. If you need to, like, I guess, because technically Blender you can also sculpt in, but the reason why ZBrush is super popular is because it's a lot more hands-on and it's very sculpting, almost like working with traditional clay, which is really nice. And then over on the texturing side of things, of course, I would say, of course, like Substance Painter, Substance Designer, those are the more common ones. And trying to just focus in on maybe like 3 of those or so and getting really good at that. I think that's like the first step, and then you can add more to that. Um, of course, I guess the end result, because engines matter, is for personal work. I think Unreal Engine is great for artists. It just has a lot of the features and everything sort of ready to go for you. Um, vanilla wise, there are some render settings and stuff that I definitely think like they can look similar sometimes, but I think if you kind of push beyond that, Unreal Engine in general is really great for artists to use. But when it comes to studios overall, there are a lot of studios that use Unreal Engine. However, there's also a lot of proprietary engines. So I think the focus on engine stuff is really focusing in on like understanding the different elements that make up the engine. So stuff like vertex painting, how a shader might be set up, how to organize, how to like build your asset, and then of course the world building. So I still like to focus in on, especially like if you are starting out, I don't know if you are, you might be very like advanced already, but still not forgetting about the fundamentals at the beginning as well, because I think sometimes the amount of programs can be overwhelming and people want to try to learn all of them. And so try to focus in on just a couple and focus in on the fundamentals, bringing them over to as well for art. So your composition, color, lighting, all of that. So it's not necessarily like an easy answer, I guess, because yeah, it's a very tech intensive job. You are using different programs nonstop every single day. But I would try to limit trying to learn all of them at the same time, because then you're just going to be like a master of none, So
yeah. And definitely the fundamentals comment, just because at the end of the day, once you know what looks nice and you understand why it is looking nice, or what makes it look that way, then eventually with each of the softwares that you use, you'll be able to find the tools and the settings and the properties that you can change to get it to look nice like it should, having that fundamental background. And then hopefully then as you learn the program, you'll also understand why it's not looking the way that you want it to and then how to fix that. There's actually a really interesting question too, that we haven't had a question like this before, from Rita, which is like, how do you use real life references to synthesize sci-fi biomes? So like, to what extent should it be grounded in reality to feel right, while feeling then alien at the same time?
So is that just like talking about how to ground things and then
making believable fantasy, basically, is what it kind of sounds like, to where it's like you have to create the sci-fi environment. Obviously, we don't actually have a sci-fi environment. So what do you look at in reality versus like what's your creative process?
I think it's similar to like what we were talking about before, like kind of earlier on, but grounding it generally doesn't necessarily mean like you have to have all of these perfect things that are super realistic and look perfect to like ground it. It can just be things that we are familiar with as humans, and that can generally be an easier thing. So even if you are making this like more fantasy environment, the familiar things that we know, of course, are like if it's a building, or some sort of structure, probably having some element of a door or a window, whatever that might be, having that. if it's I think it really comes down to, I guess broadly it's kind of hard to explain, but the main thing is trying to have things that we are familiar with as uh, just humans in general that we've come accustomed to. So like if your gravity's all off, or if you just have things that aren't, like, let's say you're I don't know, oceans upside down or something, like those aren't things that we're used to. So trying to just keep it, you can have those wild elements. Like if you look at something like I don't know, like Avatar, like not the Last Airbender, but the other Avatar. They have a
The
lot
other
of like alien vegetation and stuff, and it's very grounded. It has the same fundamentals of vegetation, where it generally has like a stem. It has like uh, the reproductive parts of the vegetation, where it's kind of like being able to pollinate and all of that, and it has seeds, which of course almost most vegetation has to have that form to be able to like grow and like spawn. And but they do it with like weird colors and exaggerated shapes. So they still have the core things like the stem and the seeds, but their shapes and their colors might be drastically altered. And it doesn't take much to change like what we're familiar with, to feel like, even if you're looking at underwater like deep sea creatures, like those are some of the, like, our underwater biomes are some of the most sci-fi things that we have on this planet. They're weirder than what you might even imagine an other alien planet could have. And when you look at those creatures, they have most of the time the same fundamentals of the fish that we're familiar with. Like it has fins, it has eyes, but the amount of eyes, or the shape of the fin, or the color, the transparency, all of those things are what makes it weird to us. So it doesn't always have to be
Yeah.
change everything. You can just change a couple things and it's weird.
Yeah, no, that's great. Also, with coming back to having the fundamentals, because you understand the fundamentals of the plants to begin with the seeds and the reproductive aspects, and which ones flower and which ones like aren't flowering, and vines, and you can start taking all of that, and then you just said exaggerating it, making things
Mhm.
different colors, combining creatures with it, just putting like, yeah, like the glow in the dark stuff. All of a sudden, now you've got like a glow in the dark leaf that's like, yeah, bioluminescent like that. So yeah, that's kind of cool idea, and basically just almost photo bashing things that you wouldn't imagine normally being together with that understanding of what does this plant need in order to make it feel like a plant, versus
Mhm.
then when is it just becoming a creature now at this point.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it doesn't take much to make things weird.
Yeah, kind of based on that same question, there's a really good one from Arvid van Tore, which is with like abandoned sites, because a lot of Naughty Dog games have overgrown foliage, or things taking over buildings that are no longer occupied. So
Mhm.
do you visit a lot of abandoned sites to see how nature took over, and is it difficult to find references like that, because so much of the world isn't necessarily abandoned, and how do you find those types of references?
Yeah, that one, I wouldn't say I'm visiting a ton of abandoned sites, just, I definitely like if there's something like, because it's much harder, especially, well, I guess there's actually a decent amount like in Los Angeles as well. Like, a building might been like, a lease ends or something like that, and it could have been dilapidated a little bit. So you might have some vegetation growing on it and all. But I guess when you're getting out of the city, that's when you generally find more of those abandoned elements, where you're seeing those uh, barns in the middle of like a field that's just been there probably for like 40 years and hasn't been touched. Or you're finding a gas station that's been abandoned in the desert that's just been covered in graffiti, and the elements have been weathering it. So those are the areas where you could definitely get reference in that form. But I would say the majority of it is probably stuff that you might have to find online, because I'm just not like traveling the world finding abandoned sites to like sneak into. And there's of course security concerns, and yeah, it's just also potentially dangerous. So I would probably
Yeah, yeah.
steer, yeah, I'd steer in the route of I think the beneficial part of about like abandoned stuff is people find it super interesting. And so that means there's a lot of people already doing it for you on YouTube. So I
Mm,
actually think that like abandoned places, I would probably go to YouTube before like Google Images, because of the amount of people sneaking into stuff. And you know
yeah.
uh, and I think it's just a great like sort of resource, not supporting any sort of like trespassing or anything like that.
Go break into a ghost town real fast. Go search
um
through. Get some really good references, because that's why you're there.
but I would definitely say that like YouTube's just overall market of abandoned buildings, and uh adults or kids like going through them and taking pretty detailed video. There's like 4K video and stuff on there. You can find a lot of videos on YouTube of that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's what I would probably lean towards.
Yeah, kind of related to that. There's actually a YouTuber I watch, spelled Shiey, and literally all he does is he goes and uh, traverses like abandoned places, and like he rides trains across Europe and stuff like that. Illegally. It like the subtitle for his channel is Illegal Freedom.
Okay.
So we don't have to do the illegal stuff. Someone else
Yeah,
has already done it, and you can get a ton of great reference from there.
exactly. You can be comfy in your home.
Yeah, I can get the thrill and
Sit there
excitement
with
of
your
the
little tape.
chase, someone else doing it.
But yeah, if you find a abandoned gas station on the side of the street as you're going, through the desert or something, that's probably safer to pull off on and take some cool images. So,
Yeah, yeah.
or
That's
just
better
Yeah.
versus you're going to find
yeah,
that.
or some
That's very
ivy
cool.
overgrowing on your local maybe restaurant that closed down like 5 years ago or something. Yeah,
Yeah, if you know it's abandoned and safe.
yeah,
We still aren't advocating for going through it, but use your best judgment.
yeah.
You'd made a mention actually not having the time to go out and find these kinds of references, abandoned places, things of that nature. So this is actually quasi relevant. The question from Idris. He wanted to know, outside of work, do you
Mhm.
try to learn new things? Like, do you target those specifically, like through your personal projects, or do you mostly focus on just what you enjoy? He's
Um,
curious to hear how professionals like to approach their personal projects.
Yeah, I would say both. So definitely like when I was first getting in the industry, all of my personal work was solely on tackling my weaknesses. So I mean, it's a career, but it's also like it is still an art form. And so with art, the best way to get better is practice and trying to do those things with just iteration. Uh, so I think like when I found weaknesses that I had, I just tried to lean into those and tackle them. And as you continue to just try them over and over and over, and do that practicing, that's how you resolve your weaknesses. So I think that was the heavy part of like when I was first kind of doing personal work. Nowadays, I still try to learn new things with my personal work, but it's also partially doing things that I enjoy and just like
Yeah.
having fun with it. Because, yeah, I think like, I don't know, it's just, it can be fun to just work on an idea that, fully and solely is like your own, and you're kind of figuring out the environment. You can figure out, and you can shelf it if you want to, or, like that's also the benefit is I have so many like layouts that I do because I love the layout phase as well, like building the environment, figuring out that, and kind of coming like figuring out the problems of how to make a composition work or a shape work. And then sometimes like once I get past the initial like alpha phase of a personal environment, I might just shelf it because I'm like, I've already figured out most of it. Now it's just a ton of asset creation and it gets like a little bit more monotonous with that. So I guess it also depends on what I'm using the piece for. But a lot of the times it's a mixture of wanting to get better at something that I feel like I struggle with, uh, or it's something that I have a lot of fun with. So like these trees and stuff, like I love making vegetation and doing organic stuff. So I think that's fun. I'm probably gonna build a organic world with it, and yeah, we'll probably see it again soon. But and then there's also like uh, I don't know, like I yeah, I guess kind of going back to that obsession of all my hobbies and everything else. Sometimes I just really enjoy sitting down and just making an environment. It's a little weird to say, you know. Most people would be like, "Oh, when you get home, don't you want to just like crash?" And yeah, sometimes I want to, you know, play a game, sit on my couch, or watch a show or something. But also other times it's like, oh, I'm like really like getting the itch to do this like personal piece because like I said, it's art and I want to make a piece of art. So yeah,
I mean, a
it's
lot of us got into this because we really enjoy it, and so there's still that aspect, and hopefully people continue to enjoy it as they're working in the field too. So it totally makes sense that sometimes you want to come home and maybe you're inspired by something and you just want to work on your own piece and not necessarily something like what makes it work oftentimes is it's not always your decision what you're working on
mhm,
versus then the personal piece is where you can try out your own things. And if you're doing a lot of sci-fi at work, but you really like foliage, then you come home and work on foliage, work on organics and things like that.
yeah.
Um, Kind of almost related. It sounds like you mentioned it in that answer a bit from Rita, which was like looking back at your skill growth across the years. What were the most helpful moments, decisions for your leveling up? And not to answer for you, but it sounds like so much of it was just like working on what really you're passionate about, and at the same time trying things out like throughout your projects.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely like trying to lean into those things that I like not struggle with, but things that you just haven't tried as much. The thing if you're scared of doing something in the environment kind of area and it's related to art, then I'd probably recommend doing it and, you know, getting over it because you'll find that it was probably easier than you thought it was going to be or at least like more fun and you might hate it, but at least you'll know, you know. So I think
Yeah.
like trying to just do it and like get over that hump is the biggest thing for sure. I remember like one of the things that like with my internship, my portfolio at that time was like all modeling all environments, and my like lead or so basically one note when they had given me a portfolio review was that they were just like, we'd like to see more material breakdowns and stuff, and of course like I at that time substance designer was like all the rage. There was like material balls all over everywhere. So I was like, okay, like this is something that I haven't done as much. So I'm gonna learn substance designer. I'm gonna like really get into it and stuff and like figure out that weak point. Cause I loved modeling. I loved sculpting and ZBrush and stuff, but I didn't do as much texturing. And I feel like it was like one of my sort of not weaker points, but just things that I hadn't emphasized on as much. And so then I just did like really honed in on the texturing side of things. And funny enough, now technically my title is a texture artist. So
What
yeah, and
when you say like, you or especially coming back also to doing the things that you're not necessarily good at, and you're like, I know there's Shia LaBeouf who's like, just do it, and like shouting at the camera and like saying it all these different times.
Just do
I-
it.
Is there anything that actually helps you to get through that, or like to actually push yourself to do those things that aren't necessarily easy and you're not good at? Because nobody wants to do things they're not good at usually.
Yeah, I think I have like personal competitiveness with myself where I don't know, like I and this is similar to like a lot of other things. Like if I don't kind of understand something, I'm like a heavy problem solver, and I need to figure it out. So whether it's like the Olympics are on and I'm watching some like sport that I've never seen before, I got to know all the rules, you know. And by the end of it, I'll like know everything about it.
Trying to strategize and coach
Yeah,
by the end of it.
yeah.
We should start a curling team. We got this.
Yeah, it was literally curling. Where my girlfriend was like, "Why do you know so much about curling now?" And I was like, sorry, I'm all in."
Yeah.
And I think it's just like the element of if I don't understand something, I really want to understand it, and so I just go deeply into problem solving of understanding how it works, and all of that. And it's definitely like it's one of those things where majority of the time it's been very beneficial for me, just even in life, you know, to have that quality. But yeah, with art specifically, if I don't like, it comes down, I guess, to like the time as well that I might have for it. If I can dedicate time to figuring out this problem, but sometimes like there's not a better feeling when you spend like 3 hours and you're just like can't figure it out, don't know why it's not working, and then something finally clicks and it like you got it, and then it's just like the most satisfying I guess kind of like adversity, you know, that you kind of overcome just with yourself, because I'm not trying to like prove it, like can I do this to anyone else besides, you know, me, you know. And I think that's the fun part of it is can I do this, you know. And I don't necessarily know the advice that I would give to how to like try to harness that as much as possible, but I think just like, you know, if you feel like you can't do something, I would say that you probably can. And it's just like of course there's limitations, like there's always that saying of, yeah, you probably can't go play a professional sport right now or something. But uh like with art specifically, I think that if you set your mind right with it, have enough of the motivation and the perseverance to get through those hurdles and be aware with yourself, like, you know, if you're able to like call yourself out on what you're failing at and where to tackle it and what you think you need to do to overcome that, I think that you can generally do most things. So
So I guess to boil it down, believe in yourself,
yes.
and
Yeah.
maybe if you're not able to do that for yourself, that's why sometimes also people get like personal trainers or something, because then if you're not able to believe in yourself, you have someone there telling you like, you can do it. Come on, push it.
Yeah.
Just one more.
Yeah.
Getting that motivation from somewhere. And if it's not internal, it can be beneficial to have someone there, or, you know, communities of people. Like there's a lot of different ways to gain that motivation. Challenges, like Sierra Division challenges.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
one of the coolest
Yeah.
parts about like teaching as well and like doing mentorships and stuff is like, because I wouldn't say I'm like I'm not tough, but I'm pretty tough, and the like I am going to push you to be the best person, you know, that you can be, and I want to make sure that you're able to get the most out of it as well. And so like I think it's really rewarding when you have someone that you're sort of working with that is struggling with something too, and then they understand it, and then you're just on the sideline like, yeah, you got it, like you actually got it, and then you can be like their biggest supporter too, because you're like, you did this, you know. um and I
cool.
think that's like a lot of fun, is seeing other people also go overcome those like adversities with art.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's why I
Yeah.
like watching people climb mountains and stuff, or rock climb, because, like, damn, he did it. Yeah, I didn't help them, but you know, I watched him do it. Yeah, I know we've been on for a bit, and we want to be respectful of your time. Do do you think it's a good spot to end it here, or would you want to take one or two more questions? It's totally
Um,
up to you, of course.
yeah, I don't know what the
We c
questions are, so I don't know if there's some good ones that we want to.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Um,
Um, let's see. We'll take maybe a quick peek, and Greg maybe pick like one or two more or something.
There's one. It's like a multi-part question, and so if you want me to, I could read it out here real quick. It was from Jules. It had to do with speaking of talking about Unreal Engine. So this is back when we were mentioning that. In
mhm.
your opinion, Peyton, and your experience, does the technical side of Unreal Engine is it importance for artists when they're starting out? They know how to block out and how to complete environments, but do blueprints and collision, would you consider those crucial to know, especially when somebody's starting out early on? They're currently job hunting and they don't know if it's a priority that they should be focusing on for the artistic side
Mhm.
or if they should be focusing on something else. And so that's they're trying to clarify if that should be something they're really honing in on or if they should be working elsewhere.
Yeah,
This
I
feels
think
like it
it's
depends answer.
um,
I feel that.
partially depends, but also at the same time, I think the things that you should focus in on are things that are going to be standard kind of across the board. So something like blueprints, that's a little bit more on the scripting side of things. And I would lean that towards probably less of a priority just because it's not necessarily enabling like the art unless it's like tech art, but then that's kind of going into the tech art field if you're doing heavy blueprint work. But I would say like yeah, that's not necessarily something that you like need to really become proficient on to become an environment artist. The elements where I think are important to sort of learn with Unreal Engine are definitely coming down to like understanding how collision works is beneficial because everywhere is probably going to have collision. It might not be the same as Unreal Engine if they're not using Unreal Engine, but everywhere is going to have some sort of collision in the game. And so you don't need to know how to make anything crazy as long as you understand like how to make some simple collision. Um, Keep it optimized because if you have really high poly collision, of course, it's pretty expensive. So doing like just some simple low form collision, even if you're just using like the auto gen one in there, and just tweaking that a bit, I think that's important. But the other things that I would recommend like in Unreal Engine to kind of focus in on as well is those elements like I guess collision that do contribute to just environment overall. So whether it might be like slightly understanding what a lot is, like a level of detail, that's something that I know there's new things that are coming out that whatever, but it's still pretty industry standard. And so at least understanding some of that vocabulary of like what a lot is, when it's needed to be used and how it's used, I think that's great. Collision, like I said, of course, if there's like some of it might go into like the shaders, so building in just a simple shader with like some vertex painting, understanding what vertex painting is and how to use the different channels. Those elements, I would say, are the ones that are beneficial for environment artists overall because they're going to be across the board. Every studio probably going to have some form of it, and yeah, and it's beneficial for you as well in Unreal Engine. I would just say like, yeah, you don't necessarily need to be doing crazy level scripting or anything. No, like no blueprint unless you really need it for some reason. But majority of my environments in Unreal Engine for personal work don't have blueprints in them, unless it's like a spline or something. But if I don't have like any crazy stuff going on, it's just like, yeah, they're not in there. And then I guess
Yeah, it's
last,
kind of like I guess the same as Substance Designer.
yeah,
Does it make sense to build out all these nodes if you're just going to use this for like 5 branches and that's all you need?
yeah,
Do you need to build an entire blueprint for something that you're just going to place in the scene a few times or just like place as foliage or something? So makes sense.
exactly. And I think even with like lighting, it's like you're probably gonna have a lighting artist in most studios, unless you're at like a smaller industry studio. This is where it depends, because the AAA is
Yeah.
where you're
Yep.
gonna have more individual dependencies and like separation of disciplines. And then as you get into AA to indie, it's going to be more and more responsibilities for each individual. And so at a smaller company, you might be responsible for something like lighting. At a larger company, you probably aren't going to be. But I would say for Unreal Engine's sake, be good enough at it to make your personal art look good and understand why things work, like just if we're making an exterior space, we probably only need like a directional light and like your skylight and stuff. Don't overcomplicate it. We don't need like 100 like point lights placed everywhere and spotlights and all. Just keeping it like simple and kind of understanding like the actual like the fundamentals of the lighting, even where you're the core aspect of it, I think is the important part.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And yeah, as far as the engine goes, I definitely agree. Like, especially for your personal stuff, learn what you need to. You don't have to dive into everything. You don't need to necessarily build blueprints for everything, but if it's fun for you, then that's another thing too, right? Go ahead and do it, try it out. Like, do something you're unfamiliar with, and maybe you'll get those moments of self-motivation where you accomplish something after 3 hours, and then you do it again and again, and then you start to find the fun in doing things that you don't like. So it can happen. But that's probably a good place to, that's probably a good place to call it.
Cool.
Then I actually have to start hopping off myself here pretty soon.
Peyton, this has been awesome. Thank you so very much. Demonstration was awesome. You've been very generous with your time and gave really thorough answers. Those were awesome. And we're super excited for you to be at the Academy. If you happen to be watching at home, if you're interested in taking mentorship with Peyton, he does have one spot remaining from his original 3. So there's one spot still remaining. If you're interested in taking mentorship with him, you are welcome to check that out at academy.sierradivision.com. I'm sure he'd love to speak to you also. If you're welcome to reach out, ask any questions, things of that nature. But that'll do it for us today. Jacob, you have anything you want to say as far as parting words, my friend? Otherwise, I can send us off.
Yeah, thanks so much for the demo. Like, I feel like with each one of the mentors that we have on, there's either a new mindset that I learned or literally just whole new tool sets that I learned. And these have been, fantastic, like little mentorships, even just for myself throughout this. There's a ton about speech read now that I know that I thought I knew it, but just watching like a real professional do it, it's always amazing to see that. So thank you for the demo. Thanks for being a part of this with us, Peyton.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. And as I said before, really excited to start with Sierra Division Academy and just, mentoring and working with all of you guys. Really look forward to it and, making some art.
Awesome.
Excited to have you with us, my friend. And for all of you, thank you so much for tuning in. I know we had a little bit of a tech delay in the beginning, so thank you all for sticking around. Hopefully some of the extra time here has made up for that. But if y'all have any questions, comments, concerns, you want to say hi to us, check out our Discord. But until next time, thank you all so very much. We'll see you next time. Appreciate you.